All right, Rob Browne with you on this Wednesday morning, a cold one in Memphis.
Hi, Rob.
About 35 degrees, and I see you over there on the left. I'm tell you what, it flips around a little bit. But Brenden, we got a
Keep you on your toes.
lot to talk about today, and I love that link that you sent us this morning. Thank you so much. It's a lot of trending stories in the SEC from Associated Press. Real journalism, I would hope. But talking about Tennessee with their situation. Same thing, Florida State, Florida, the Ncaa, selective enforcement. Vince Ferrara is going to join us, as well as Dudley Dawson of hogville.net. Vince, the sports animal up in Knoxville. So we will be covering a lot of and I don't think there's too much to really debate about what's going on with Tennessee. But this fact, the chancellor, Dondi Plowman, has come out swinging, which is the way you got to do. The Ncaa, if you wait for the other shoe to drop, it'll fall.
That's right. Well, I think they're going what we thought they were going to do. They're going scorched earth. Hey, guys, if you're watching this for the first time, there's a little subscribe button down in the bottom right-hand corner. Click on that bad boy. And or if you're on your phone, just pull the chat down. You'll see a subscribe button. Hit that. We'll continue to bring this quality content for you for free. And we'll roll this open. We'll be right back. We got Mitch Davis in the green room right here on Sideline Sports Network.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with Mitch Davis of the MitchDavisShow.com. One of the original, everybody calls this term the OGs, but he's one of the original guys. He's been with us since Gordon Ford and I started back August 9th of 2019, one day a week on Fridays. That this young reporter, man, I met him on press row down at the basketball game in Ole Miss. He's really good. And I like to say this, Mitch Davis, the man has seen close to 500 football, baseball, and basketball games over the last 5 years. If he hits 505, we're going to have to buy him a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle or something like that to celebrate. But Brenden Martin's in the studio, our executive producer down in Ocala, the limestone capital of the world, horse capital of the world, Buddy Martin's son. I'm going to tell you something, Mitch, it was really cool yesterday. His dad, Buddy, was on, one of the best sports writers in the world who, I got just, it's awesome having him on. And this is his son who's grown up in this business. And this is just, it's more fun. It never seems like work, Mitch. And you know what I'm talking about. You're putting out a lot of great content. You're constantly writing, getting better. Iron sharpens iron. SEC basketball. Look at that. South Carolina in a week has beaten the top two teams in the SEC. Kentucky, they go on the road and win at Thompson Bowling Arena. And they're not even ranked. And then you've got an Auburn team that was ranked 8th in the country that has lost 2 road games in a row. How out of touch with what's going on are a lot of the ranking or the pollsters?
Rob, thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. And if you hear a dog barking, little Willow Grace is getting big. We take her for her, I think 12, 13-week checkup, her final shots, and get all that. So she is rambunctious. I tried to give her a couple ice cubes to calm her down this morning. So we'll see what happens. But Rob, what a night last night in Oxford, Mississippi. It was a fantastic environment. Sold out, 10,000 fans, 10,063, largest crowd in the history of Ole Miss basketball. And really, truthfully, just a great kind of wake-up call to the rest of the country that says, hey, basketball in the SIP, man, we're kind of here to stay, and very proud night. And obviously, both Mississippi State and Ole Miss fought hard. It was a hell of a game. South Carolina at the big game, and I'm looking forward to getting up to Nashville in a month or so and going to the SEC tournament, covering that for the fans, and really just getting that opportunity to go up there and cover good basketball for the second year in a row. So really excited about that. And Rob, I'll drop a little news on your show this morning. I have joined the ranks of the College Baseball Central guys. Going to be doing my SEC baseball podcast on their kind of channel, and they're kind of now becoming the next kind of D1 baseball perfect game type deal. They've got a network of over 25, 30 podcasts covering college baseball like you guys have never seen. And they approached me about a month ago and said, hey, can you put the Hit at the Hoover podcast on here? We'll offer you some stuff, and great opportunity. So very excited about joining those guys at College Baseball Central. So would highly encourage everybody to, if you love SEC baseball, go check them out. I'm going to be on Twitter promoting a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing, covering the SEC baseball. So it's going to be a really fun spring for me as well.
What's the name of your podcast again?
So it's I got two podcasts. Hit It to Hoover is on YouTube, and then you've also got the Mitch Davis Show podcast on SoundCloud. So on the Mitch Davis Show this week, we're going to have Coach Matt Reiser from the University of Memphis baseball program. He joined me on Sunday. We talked Memphis baseball, kind of putting that together, kind of putting the article together, previewing Memphis baseball. And then on Friday, going to be joined on the Hit It's Hoover SEC baseball podcast. That's going to be over on College Baseball Central by Nick Mingione, the head coach at Kentucky. The Wildcats had a hell of a season last year, Super Regionals, went all the way down to Baton Rouge, and really just had a magical ride last year. So very excited to talk about Kentucky baseball. Excited to talk to Jay Johnson, Tony Vitello, Mike Bianco. Going to have some heavy hitters coming on the Hit It to Hoover podcast with Jake Nichols and I here in the next couple of weeks.
Look, SEC baseball, I love it. We're lucky we have Coach Butch Thompson on here with us a lot during the season, but you are really a baseball junkie. I know you do a lot with it. Mitch, going back to that game last night at the Pavilion, Ole Miss is now 18-3. Look, Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, said it last year before it happened. He said, don't be surprised if Ole Miss doesn't go after Chris Beard, who was out at the time at Texas. He's one of those guys, I know a good coach when I see it, and I believe y'all do too. They show fight from the beginning. If a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a puppy. That's just how it works. This guy can win anywhere. Now, Andy Kennedy averaged about 21 wins a season over his 12 years at Oxford. And now they got the Pavilion. They've got a big Grove NIL collective. And they brought in Wes Flanagan, who was a Little Rock guy, played at Auburn. Then he coached with Chris Beard briefly. And now Alan Flanagan's averaging about 16 points a game. He's an Auburn man and graduated and said, I'll go with my dad for this last year. But they're 18-3, not getting a whole lot of attention. And I like what David Arnoff says here on the show, one of the comments. Go back to the Coach Paris there at South Carolina. They're getting so little respect. Again, how are you going to handle success? But Mitch, SEC basketball, this may be the best we've seen the league top to bottom in how long? A long time.
Rob, to that point, I was sitting there thinking about this on presser, and you always got to put out content, always got to talk about content. But last night, as I was driving home, I was kind of formulating, okay, what does SEC basketball mean to me personally? Because Rob, my story, and I'm sure a lot of people do. I was raised in a split household. Half my family was Memphis Tigers fans, and half my family was Kentucky fans. And then, of course, I married in Mississippi State. And I started growing up, going to the SEC tournament. When I was 10 years old, my dad would take us out of school. I know that's a foreign term to kids nowadays, but my dad would take us out of school for that week of the SEC tournament. And we would go and watch the Wildcats play, and whether it be in Nashville, whether it be in, Atlanta or Tampa or wherever. And I can remember those SEC tournaments when it was just Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, and then it was just basically everybody else,
Yeah.
And now the SEC, I mean, when you look at it, and Mississippi State is the 10th best team in the league right now, according to the standings. Your league is so dadgum good. I mean, the league
Yeah.
is top to bottom. We've got teams, even the team like Vanderbilt, I saw them play a couple weeks ago against Mississippi State. Vanderbilt has the potential there on the roster to make a run like they did last year, and make a run and maybe even winning the SEC tournament, sneaking into the NCAA tournament. I think the SEC just doesn't get the credit that it deserves in basketball because people are so tired of the quote unquote SEC bias in baseball, softball, women's basketball, football. I mean, we run every other sport. I mean, especially now adding OU and Texas. I mean, look what OU does in softball each and every year. I mean, they win that College World Series every single year. And people are tired of the SEC. And when I watch South Carolina and I compare them over to, let's say, give me a middle of the pack ACC team, NC State. I compare them to NC State, or I compare them to maybe Wake Forest or somebody like that. South Carolina's better. Ole Miss is better than a lot of these middle of the pack. I mean, Ole Miss beat Memphis. Ole Miss beat Memphis at home to start the season. This is a league that is so dadgum deep and so exciting. And just really, truthfully, when I watch SEC basketball, I beam with pride. I really do. I'm so proud of this league. I'm so proud of how far it has come. And you know, Rob, and I've said this on this show, I wish in the next round of realignment, because we're heading that way, we're heading to, you know, an 18 to 20 team league. I wish the SEC would pick up on maybe Memphis or maybe like a Clemson or somebody like that to add to this basketball repertoire, because this basketball that we have in this conference is stupid. And then sooner or later, you're going to have another program. Let's say it's going to be maybe Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Alabama or somebody like that breaks through and gets back to the Final Four. And it's not just Kentucky, Auburn. You know, maybe even Tennessee can crack through for the first time ever and get to the Final Four.
Well, along what you're talking about with basketball, and I was talking about Auburn had lost 2 in a row by 4 at Tuscaloosa and 64-58 at the Hump Saturday against Mississippi State. But look at the top 10 in college basketball going into this week. It's different now, but UConn, the defending national champion, they lost 5 or 6 in a row last year and still won it all. And this year, they're 3-2 on the road. Kansas, as great as Kansas is, we're told every day, and they are. They're 1-3 on the road in the Big 12. And Houston plays Kansas for the first time as a Big 12 member this week. Top leagues in the country. I ask this a lot. Big 12, SEC, Big East. You and I both know in Memphis how big Tiger basketball is. They blew a 20-point lead against University of Central Florida a couple of weeks ago. That was horrible. Then they go on the road and lose at Tulane. Mitch, talk about it. And I know this is a really, I guess, basically obvious question, but at the same time, why is it so damn difficult to win on the road? A lot of coaches will say simply waking up in a different bed, different environment. That's a big part of it.
So truthfully, Rob, and we see this across, you know, college basketball and college football as well. This is why I kind of go back to the transfer portal and say, I know how a lot of people feel about transfer portal, that it's, you know, ruining college athletics. To me personally, as a 27-year-old kid who covers the sport, who is around the sport, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, women's basketball, softball, I love the transfer portal because it is creating so much parity across college athletics. And you're getting so much excitement, not only in the SEC, but you mentioned Tulane. Tulane has sold out of 4 games this year. They're down at the campus, beautiful campus of Tulane. They have never sold out of games that don't end at Memphis. They just don't. And now you've got 4 sellouts at Ole Miss. You've sold out of 8 games this year that are not Kentucky games. Mississippi State, they've had 4 straight sellouts, whether it be Vanderbilt, Auburn, Alabama. You have so much excitement around the country for college athletics, because what we're seeing in the pros is, you know, people like the NBA, and it's kind of relaxing just to sit there and watch, but it is not the true game of basketball. And I think that is what people are seeing with college athletics. I mean, we're seeing attendance numbers not only be shattered in baseball, basketball, football, but also women's basketball, softball. I was at the Pavilion a couple of weeks ago when LSU came to town for the Ole Miss women's basketball game. and they had 10,000 people there, and it was just a raucous environment. And really, truthfully, I was watching Ole Miss. I can't go to every Ole Miss women's basketball game because
Yeah.
they got a dog, got a wife now. I can't go to every game. But Coach Yo the other day went on record and she said, "Look, you guys either need to put up or shut up and support our program." Coach Yo has the second best SEC women's basketball team right now, right behind South Carolina. They're a hell of a basketball team. Coach Sam Purcell, right down in the street down in Starkville, Mississippi, he's got a great program. They just knocked off LSU at home. The hump was bumping. They had 11,000, whatever it was, sold out. I think people are just so starved for good news because across the country we see so much of war and of just terror and really just heartbreak across the country. And I think that those 3 hours on a Saturday, whether it be a basketball game or a football game, baseball, whatever, I think that those 3 hours people can kind of feel whole again and they can have a way or something to kind of release that stress and to believe in society. And that's kind of where I think a little bit, I think this is where the attendance numbers are as of right now.
Well, people want to be part of something successful. And I'm looking at what Johnny Harris is doing, the women's basketball coach at Auburn. They beat Georgia. They beat LSU a few weeks ago, had close to 8,000 people there. It'll happen. But I think what's happening with women's basketball is the girls, I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. The biggest BS narrative is there's a war between men and women. That's garbage. We've all got a mom, aunts, girlfriends, wives, sisters, daughters. I mean, this is stupid. The free market is what I'm talking about. And I will say this, the women's basketball, with what Kim Mulkey's doing at LSU. We had Coach John Brady on last week. Jimmy Ott, the Ott father from Baton Rouge, Scott Rabelais, Frank Duffy. They'll all tell you this. Kim Mulkey is making everybody in Baton Rouge work harder. Chris Beard. Right now, Ole Miss is in the midst of the greatest run of Ole Miss sports in their entire history. A national championship 2 years ago in baseball. What they're doing in football, two double-digit win seasons in the last 3 years. They have never won 11 games in their history until they beat Penn State in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl this year. That's a big damn deal. It may not be at some schools, but it is there. And they're smelling blood, as Yancey Porter says, in football for next year for the national championship. But Chris Beard is one of those kind of guys. It's just like in the sales field and out on the sales floor. You've got guys, it's the 80-20 rule. Chris Beard, and you work for him, you work for Bruce Pearl, you work for people like that, you're going to work your ass off. And if you don't, you will not be on the payroll. It's that simple. As far as the portal goes, here's the thing. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, says this. He's right. I've never seen it where you can go from the bottom up toward the top so fast. And the opposite, you can go from the top to the bottom if guys bail on you, okay? And a little bit of warning to people. Don't be laughing too hard at Alabama. They're still Alabama. They're like that 6-foot Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake that you thought you had killed. Go try to pick it up by the head. At least in the first 24 hours. They're still Alabama. And the Red Elephant Club, and they know how to get it done. Okay? So, but I think you're right on so many areas. And Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, is going to jump in here with us. You look at a program like Arkansas, who he covers, Hogville.net. You got to get him on your show. Dudley's a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan, Cardinals fan, and Boston Celtics fan. Been writing for 35 years, covering Arkansas. But around the SEC, everywhere you go, Mitch, I don't know if you've met Dudley Dawson before, Hogville.net. Everywhere you go, you've got fans. Like, what scares me about Arkansas is they've got tons of money. And Mississippi State, look, where do you go in the SEC to hide? There's nowhere to go hide. But what we're seeing in basketball, I think the women, if we don't watch it, the women are going to steal a generation of fans because the girls stay 4 years. Kim Mulkey, they go out and thank the fans and sign posters. Somebody said, one of our guests last week said, it's almost the Taylor Swift effect. And sorry, I couldn't name you any of her songs. But you see these little girls showing up at the women's basketball games with posters of their favorite players. And Dudley, you see it at these gymnastics meets at Arkansas, and you see it, Brenden. But these are some great things happening. Look, all this negative stuff, put that aside. Find what works and run with it.
You know, Rob, I was at that Ole Miss LSU game, and I wrote an article about this. I walked around the court like I do at every game. Kirk Herbstreit told me when I interviewed him, take a picture before every game you go to and walk around the court or the field that you're at, just to kind of take in that environment. He gave me that advice about 7 years ago when I had him on the podcast. I do that every game. And the amount of young girls that were screaming out Angel Reese or Coach Yo or Kim Mulkey or Haley Van Lith was so up. I've got a little sister. I've got a sister-in-law. And you know, you mentioned the Taylor Swift thing, and my wife and I had this conversation. Your daughters and your granddaughters and all them are seeing the comments that people are making about Taylor Swift, and you're basically telling them, hey, belittle yourself, go in the background. She can't help that she's getting shown on TV. She's there to support her boyfriend. That's the same with women's athletics. I saw Coach Yo last night. She was dancing and having a great time, and she got on the bleachers in front of the Club Red and led the hottie toddy. She got on the microphone and hell yeah, damn right. And I'm not an Ole Miss fan, and I loved her. I love what Coach Yo was doing. Guess who wasn't at the game? Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin was nowhere to be found. He was out.
Yeah.
I know he was in Oxford because he's been posting pictures in Oxford, but he wasn't at the game. Coach Yo was. She was on the front row, sitting 5 seats down from Morgan Freeman. Coach Parcell, he drove from Starkville with his assistant coaching staff to go to the game last night to support Mississippi State. That is what we see across the board. And I know for a fact that Coach Yo and Coach Purcell and all these guys have gone all the way out to Omaha and support the baseball program. They've gone to the big-time bowl games. And that is what we're seeing with women's basketball. I asked Kim Mulkey about that. I said, Kim, what about this crowd? You guys got 10,000 people out here, and 3,000 of those are LSU fans at Ole Miss. And she goes, no, they came. You guys got to come out here and support Ole Miss now. You guys got to go out here and support women's basketball. Pat Summitt laid the groundwork. Now Kim Mulkey, Coach Yo, go across the board. Coach Purcell. All of these people are doing wonders in gymnastics. I know Dudley covers Arkansas gymnastics. Look what Livy Dunn is doing down there at LSU. She was one of the most remarkable people in all of college athletics, making millions of dollars just because she's awesome, because she is a kick-butt businesswoman. And that's kind of where I have a little sister and I have a little sister-in-law that I try to pour into them and say, hey, look, guys, yes, I'm a conservative male and that's just who I am. I was raised in the South, but I want you guys to have the same opportunities that, I know that my sons will have, that I will have, just because I'm a male. And I think that the war between two sports needs to end. We need to go out there and support women's basketball.
Look, Mitch, the free market, and Dudley, jump in on this. The free market, if you got a good product, support it. I don't even think about men's or women's sports. I will support the commitment to winning. Dudley, you are one of the better writers around. You get to cover a lot of sports. Look what's going on at Arkansas. Good God. Baum Stadium. The Auburn sent all their architects and people up there last year for the opening weekend. I think it was St. Patrick's Day weekend. Auburn had no luck, got swept in Fayetteville. But Arkansas hosted, all of the Auburn people to look at your facilities on how to make it better. That's pretty cool. This league even does that. But talk about the big picture. Love the background, by the way.
Well, this is a live picture of my backyard right now.
Okay. But talk about the Fayetteville effect.
Been able to keep the trees colors and all that through this weather. But,
I love it.
No, I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm very fortunate in working with hogville.net that our boss, Lanny Beavers, lets me cover a lot of what I want to. And what I want to cover a lot of, as Mitch was missing, is gymnastics, softball, soccer, those type of things. I'm a girl dad as well, two daughters, 2 sons. So, appointment TV viewing for me right now is watching Caitlin Clark. I can miss a SEC men's game, but I'm not going to miss one of hers. And my wife, who's a big sports fan, has joined in on, and she's amazing. Angel Reese, and LSU last South Carolina. I love to watch South Carolina. So I'm not bullish on just one side of this thing here. I do think that it's interesting that here at the University of Arkansas. The women's teams are flourishing right now. Baseball about to get ready to go. I think there are only 3 teams that are in the top 10 in the preseason polls of baseball and softball in the college right now. And Arkansas is one of those. Those happen to be 2 of my main things. So I'm excited about covering those. But it's I do think that there is a sports market, women's sports market that is burgeoning, and that I can tell by the interest in the stories I'm covering and the I hate using these words, but the views and the clicks that they're getting. I'd like to call it just reading. The amount of number of people reading tells me that what I'm doing is popular, or at least being read. Some of that's not. And some of those stories in football and basketball right now maybe aren't getting read, on the men's side.
Well, and Mitch, I know you got to get going to put on your cape for your other job as a super banker. Here he is, though. But look, I like what you said about Kim Mulkey, going on and saying, hey, y'all support Ole Miss. And Dudley, you remember, and Brenden, Dale Browne. I remember when I was in college, LSU was playing at Auburn, and it was like a Friday night game. And it was a weekend where LSU was at Auburn, and then they played at North Carolina, I think, on a Sunday. After Auburn won the game, Dale Browne went in the Auburn locker room and said, hey, congratulations, y'all got a hell of a team. I mean, that's good sportsmanship. Obviously, you're myopically focused on your success, but you can also make everybody around you better. Mitch, look, the 500 games, Dudley, he's close to his 500th game in the last 5 years, football, baseball, or basketball. Somebody's got to do it. But, man, love having you on here. And thank you so much for taking your time to share with us. Let everybody know how they can follow you and keep up with you, because you do great work and you're relentless. And I'll come on your podcast anytime.
Rob, thank you so much, and it's good to see you, Brenden and Dudley. And Dudley, I hope to see you in Nashville. I don't know, with the Hogs doing the way they're doing, I don't know if you'll be there, but I really hope that you're in Nashville. I'd love to grab a beer with you and sit down with you and talk Cardinals baseball. But
sounds good. Sounds good to me. Hey, it didn't have to be a sporting event. I can just come to Nashville.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I've been known to spend a few. Me and Morgan Wallen have been known to spend a few nights on Broadway. So.
There you go.
But Rob, thank you so much for having me on. Mitch Davis _8 on Twitter. Let's see here. I got so many podcasts, everything going on where College Baseball Central. I think it's collegebaseballcentral.com, and on YouTube will be where Hit It to Hoover is for the rest of the baseball season. So very excited about working with those guys. On SoundCloud is the Mitch Davis Show podcast. Looking forward to posting my interview with my Memphis Tiger head coach, Matt Reiser, talking about Tiger baseball. Very excited about the future and watching that from afar, watching Memphis baseball get to that next level. And of course, the MitchDavisShow.com, SEC basketball, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, a lot of content there. Looking forward to seeing a lot of people at the SEC tournament. I'll be there from Wednesday through Sunday, covering the whole tournament, but with an emphasis on Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So it should be a lot of fun. Rob, thank you again.
Look, find something to do with your free time. I'm kidding. Take care, all right?
Guys.
All right. You bet. Hey, Chad House, ECS House Industries, is the 99,000 square foot warehouse in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, right in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, about 14 miles north of Wynn, between Wynn and Jonesboro, the borough. We're heading up there later today. And they make agricultural equipment for farmers in America and around the world. The better roller, the pulverizer, the better chopper. They also make the aerators for the catfish farms. You love catfish? They make the aerators that make this possible. Chad House, this is a 75-plus-year-old business. You got to love a guy like this as an employer. He's just a good guy. Sigma Nu, graduated from Rhodes College, and is a serious hog fan. 2 days before Christmas, Audrey pulls me up again, and he said, this is my favorite time of the year. I get to write bonus checks to my employees who make all this possible. I love them. I've got great people working for me, and I'm around him. I know Chad. Anytime you talk to people that work for him, with him, they love him. They got a great family. ECS House Industries. Check them out on our website. Proud to have them as the sponsor of the Razorback Report with Dudley Dawson of hogville.net. Dudley, again, thanks for taking time to join us. And Brenden, Dudley's serious Cowboys, Celtics, Cardinals fan. And, Dudley's dad, Buddy Martin,
wait,
serious Rays
Let's go
fan.
through that again. Cowboys, Cardinals,
And
what
Celtics.
else?
Celtics.
Grew up in Balch, Arkansas, which is a suburb of Newport in the 60s. And we basically got 3 channels back then. When I say that, my kids are horrified. We were all excited when PBS came along and gave us four channels. But I got the Celtics games, was the only NBA games. They came on Sunday. Got the Cowboys games and Cardinals radio station. So those became my 3 teams. It makes no geographic sense whatsoever. I do like the fact, although I've been on board from the start, I do like the fact that they've all had winning seasons over my 60 years and championships. Been a little dry here lately, but that's okay. I'm not one of these guys who jumps off the ship and becomes a Golden State fan or becomes a Houston.
No, you're hardcore. You're hardcore.
He is hardcore.
Hey, listen, and by the way, I grew up in Colorado. We had Superstation, WGTS or whatever it was, but that's we didn't have baseball, so we watched Cubs.
Gotcha.
We didn't have the Rockies then. We watched Cubs, and that's why I grew up on Harry Carey.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that.
Yeah. Well, Dudley, hey, Brenden, you're right. And Dudley, when we were kids coming up, you had WGN Chicago, Harry Carey and Steve Stone. And then you had WTBS out of Atlanta with Pete Van Wieren, Ernie Johnson, and Chuck. I'm going to tell you what, this is cool. Chuck Oliver, my friend, has the Southeastern Sports Network, Chuck Oliver show, Southern Sports Today. And it's an awesome show. And he said last year that when the Braves were playing at Houston for something, he said, these are the Braves kids, like, Jerry's kids. They're called the Braves kids. They've grown up, all these kids around the country in different cities that didn't have a team that might now have a team, but there's tons of Braves fans and Cubs fans around the country. Man, we were lucky to get to grow up in that time. Everybody remembers the great shout outs that Harry Carey would give, want to say hello to all the shut-ins and the nerds.
I had him with the Cardinals. I had him and Jack Buck with the Cardinals, when I first started listening to baseball. So, I've always been a fan of listening to games on the radio.
Yeah.
And it's cool. TV's cool, but radio's where you get description.
I met him once.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Carey and Jack Buck on the same broadcast, and then Mike Shannon. But you're right. Dudley, have you thought about? I mean, right now, let's talk some Arkansas, because there's a lot going on there. You've got the signing date coming up a week from today. What is Arkansas going to add? Because now Bobby Petrino's been there, and I'm sure they've gone out and looked at some guys. But also, you got the portal, so there's 2 recruiting classes that you're putting together.
Yeah, and I think that Arkansas would like to thank some of the coaches for being fired or moving to another spot or retiring, because there's, that 30-day space where you now can continue to recruit in the portal. They still have, I think, 7 scholarships. They feel good about what they've brought into the program, but it's not enough yet. You're going to have to finish it off with another offensive lineman, defensive lineman, some more people in the back. It's a constant thing with the portal now. Here's another thing that's going to happen. As soon as spring practice is over at schools, and we've seen it happen in the past 2 seasons, another batch of guys are going to jump into the portal and transfer. And some guys from your team, your program, are probably going to jump in there. So it's not over with yet. I'd love to speculate, and I can, on how they're going to be next year, but I'm still not sure that I have a clear picture, and I'm not sure they have a clear picture of exactly what's going to be on campus. And while I agree with Mitch, the portal has helped parity, it's also a cluster. You know what?
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, because Dudley, you started out as a writer. When you first started out, how many times did you say, and knowing you as I've gotten to know you these last few years, I don't think you ever thought about quitting, but it was like, how frustrated were you? Well, I'm going to another paper, or I'm going to leave, but you grinded it out, and you hung in there and you fought your ass off, and you became what you are today, very successful, one of the more respected writers around, and people fight over someone like you for that very reason. You get these kids in the portal. Who wants a teammate that's been on 3 teams in the last 5 months?
Well, I was discussing it with a former assistant basketball coach. He's retired now yesterday. And, what I was telling him, and I want to get to the elephant in the room with Arkansas basketball here in a minute.
Yeah.
I want people think I'm running away from that. But I was discussing with him that, there's a reason their kids get in the portal and go somewhere else. It's not because everything's going perfect at the school they were at. So there's some warts and issues with these kids. Even though you welcome them to your team, some of them you welcome to go away, there's a reason everything wasn't going perfect down there. And I think we're seeing some of that here with the Arkansas basketball team this year and some with the football team. So,
Yeah.
I think we've seen it up close in the program that I mainly cover.
Let's talk. By the way, Smokey Gator over here, a comment. Bob Euchre still does Milwaukee Brewers radio. I didn't know he was still living.
Yeah, he's 90, and I listen to Milwaukee Brewers games on the radio simply to listen to him and some of their TV games as well. But yeah, he's still great at what he does. Man, he might have missed a step or two, but it's still, as I said, love the radio version.
Well, there's nothing better. Vince Scully broadcast until his 90s. Why not? Look, got one trip to the plate, make it count. You'll catch up on your sleep when you're dead. I'm going to start listening. I did not know that. Just growing up as a kid, how many times did we see Bob Euchre on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon? Let's get, what? I tell you a role. I'm going to make a prediction here. You know what a great role Paul Feinbaum would be? Because he's pretty funny. Put him on late night and let him kind of assume that role that David Letterman left when he got out of TV. Because Feinbaum can keep a poker face and make you laugh your ass off. And why not have Mildred as his co-host, that old hag that used to call the show, Paul, how you doing, Paul? Well, but anyway, Dudley, what is going on with Arkansas basketball? Because Vince Ferrara is going to join us in just a minute from the Sports Animal up in Knoxville. We're going to talk about what's going on with Tennessee. And please stay on with us. I love having you on here together with the guests because we are all learning a lot. And that's what we do on this show. We get the people that cover the different schools together because one thing you learn is, you're covering your schools, but we got a lot in common is we're trying to get the stories out. But I can't go a day without 5-10 people saying, Rob, what's happened to Arkansas basketball? Because Eric Musselman is a hell of a coach, and Arkansas's athletic facilities, they lack, they want for nothing. If they need it, they'll get the money. I'm just looking at it from the outside, but you know better from the inside.
Yeah, here's what I want to say. The Arkansas is now 10-10 overall, 1-6 in conference play at Missouri tonight. Missouri obviously has had a tough year. Missouri, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt are the bottom three, and I think that's valid the way they've played. You are what your record says you are. But this has been, and I've been covering or been inside this program for 40 years, and these last 3 or 4 days, have been one of the most idiotic situations I've ever seen in my life over the course of the time. I love social media sometimes. I also hate it. It's the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
Devo Davis, who has been an unbelievable player and done so many things for this university over the course of his time, has hit some big shots, has played hard and all that. There's been so much speculation about him and Trevon Brazile, and I'm not going to go into specifics. I don't traffic in rumors. I don't traffic in speculation. What I do traffic in,
I respect the hell out of you for doing that. Thank you.
What I do traffic in is trying to be truthful and tell what's, and do as much as I can. I get sources. I validate things. There's been some wild rumors out there. Not saying they're true, not saying they're false. Yeah. But the amount of people who have jumped on this situation and just put their own words out there and just destroyed kids' characters is just heinous to me. I can't stand it. And if you get mad at me because I'm saying this, I don't really give a what.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Again, for 40 years, I've been covering these kids. In the big scheme of things, that's what they are. Yes, they're growing into young men. Yes, they're getting paid now. Yada this. But there are great fans out there. There are also just a bunch of idiots who hang out on social media. And this last 3 or 4 days has been just horrible in terms of, and you're hurting the Arkansas program by doing this. Don't think that you're. I mean, it's cool to be negative and all that now, but I'm embarrassed. I just don't understand it because my mom and dad didn't raise me that way. I don't care if new toys come along with social media, but I've had enough of it. Had enough of it, and if you don't like me saying this, well, screw you. I mean, I've had enough. Just if you've got nothing of positivity, and you don't have to. I mean, I think people like me because I'm negative sometimes, because I'm positive sometimes. I like to think I'm in the middle, but I just had it, just absolutely had it with this last week when people just go out there and speculate and have Joe's brother's wife's sister told him. And just let it play itself out. They are a bad basketball team. They're poorly constructed. They haven't played well. They don't play defense. They don't share the ball. I can come up with so many things. That's the reason they're 10-10 and 1-6, not because of some rumors you think is happening.
Yeah. Well, and that's
how you do it.
Yeah, no, but I'm glad you said that because we've got so much of what is considered to be media today is people talking about what other people are talking about. There's very little original thought. And that's what you're doing is you're going in there. You probably use 3 or 4 sources to verify a story. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're a true grit journalist. And all these young people out there that are throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks, that's not journalism. That's embarrassing. And you can destroy somebody's character. You can destroy their reputation real quick. You know, my dad's right. Life's complicated enough. There's a lot going on. He goes, but just try to follow the 10 commandments, do your best, and the golden rule. Treat people like you'd like to be treated yourself. And I think there's some people out there, a lot of them, that love chaos. It gives them an excuse to drink or smoke weed or whatever. That's BS. That's nonsense. And they like the chaos and the negativity because it gives them power because their own life is such a miserable failure. So they take it out on other people. Great, great, great comments. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, with the most beautiful backyard in America. I love it. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, is on with us right now. And Vince, we're having a cool discussion about a lot of things in the SEC. And as always, thank you so much for taking time to join us this morning as you broadcast live from your condo in Palm Springs, California. It looks like
I am not in my mom's backyard, which I have been before to come on your show.
I love it, but Mama Ferraras. Vince, Tennessee right now, my wife and, of course, cousin Mark was over here with us, who's got the biggest tailgate in Knoxville. We took him to the airport yesterday to head back to Knoxville. He's been down here with us talking about this. What's going on with the NCAA? I love Chancellor Dondi Plowman. She has come out swinging, which is the only way to deal with the NCAA. And then last night, South Carolina, just the SEC is scary good. But let's get what's going on up on the hill in Knoxville.
Yeah, the big thing, obviously, we'll get to hoops in a minute, but you're asking about the NCAA, the report of an NCAA investigation that Sports Illustrated first had, and New York Times kind of jumped in and clarified. The original story was without specifics. It was kind of vague, and it centers around, according to the New York Times report, it centers around the collective Spire Sports using a private jet to fly Nico Iamaleava to campus. The thing is, that's technically, I guess, from the NCAA's revised rules. They don't want that. They sort of deem collectives as boosters, and they're trying to alleviate the pay for play, which is going on everywhere in college athletics. So
You're
just in.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, this just in. So they now apparently are trying to retroactively, they've said they were going to try to do this, retroactively try to penalize programs for using collectives to try to steer players towards their campus. You mentioned Dondi Plowman. The chancellor came out with a strong statement in talking about the chaotic environment of the NCAA, their enforcement, and they seeked out guidance. They tried to meet with Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, in December, and they weren't able to do so. Everything is vague, and even she pointed out how, besides it being really flawed in their punishment, said that some of the allegations are factually untrue. And Spire Sports also had a statement. And by the way, she said she tried to meet with Charlie Baker, didn't happen, and so they were trying to be proactive there and getting some guidance into how they're viewing the NIL landscape. Because Spire Sports is one of the biggest ones and sort of created at Tennessee or here locally with Tennessee, but not exclusively to Tennessee. So Spire Sports came out with a statement as well saying, hey, look, Nico's NIL deal was for him as a college athlete, not towards one university. And also, we abided by the laws of the state of California. That's another thing that's very complicated here, is the state laws, which allow you to be able to use NIL in a lot of different ways. So because there's really not anything concrete for the NCAA, and they've had no teeth for so long, it's interesting that something like this would come out and they would maybe target Tennessee to try to send a message and use them as an example for what they don't want NIL to be, which they're not wrong in that, but they didn't do anything on the front end to prevent that in the first place. And then also Tennessee was, according to the NCAA, they set the bar for compliance during the allegations of the Jeremy Pruitt era during their last investigation. So, which is not that far removed from being settled. So she's like, how are you going from claiming that we are the bar in compliance, which we were, to trying to use us an example towards lack of institutional control? Now, they haven't gotten a notice of allegations yet, so who knows if this is a report that won't go anywhere, or even have any teeth to be able to go anywhere in the end. But it definitely, for those that don't like Tennessee or are looking for NIL to blow up, Tennessee's going to be attached to this until we get clarity or more details on the situation and what the NCAA can do, if anything.
And I want to jump in here. I've never gone to law school. I've watched a lot of legal dramas, Perry Mason, anything I get my hands on.
You stayed at
the Holiday
Inn last night?
Yeah, but what I do know is when a lawyer stands up in court and goes, he killed a guy before, and the judge goes, okay, you're going to have to disregard that statement. This is what this seems to be like. Somebody leaked this story. They got it out there. Now Tennessee's been tarnished. I don't know enough about it to know, the details and all, but I do know that the judge just said, disregard that statement. You can't disregard the statement now. It was the big thing yesterday afternoon, and they have tarnished Tennessee, rightly or wrongly, and you can't disregard the statement after it's out there.
Yeah, well, you can't. Words are like bullets. You can't take them back.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting about this case is that what happens here, I think it's going to, dictate what happens at the Florida investigation. A lot of how Florida is going to react to the NCAA, and that I'm just really paraphrasing Franz Beard, who comes on here all the time, and he writes for my website GatorbaitMedia.com. But it's I feel like that how Tennessee, or France feels like how Tennessee reacts here, or it's going to be like how a lot of other schools are going to follow suit in a way. So are they going to go scorched earth here or not is the question, because we keep waiting for the one school to be like, you know what, I'm done with you. Like, what are you going to do? Because it's completely unfounded. A lot of this stuff, it's like impossible to really police any of it. It's like, I mean, you could investigate every school in the beginning and you're going to find some sort of violation.
Well, it's what NIL is being used for. It wasn't the intent. The intent was to reward guys that have put in so much work and earned their name, image, and likeness and their specific brand and generating revenue for the universities. That's what it was supposed to be about, but it clearly has become pay for play. And everybody is participating in it in different form or fashion. But then there's the state rules as well. So I don't see an avenue for the NCAA to come down. I know Florida State had a maybe they were the first that was targeted.
Yeah.
Theirs might have been a little bit different because there was some specifics on an assistant coach that was punished, and they came to an agreement. They negotiated out. I don't think Tennessee has taken that approach of, hey, let's negotiate on a settlement on this. Considering how cooperative they were, I don't think Tennessee is going to take that stance, and they don't feel they did anything wrong anyway in how the NCAA had this laid out or didn't have it laid out in the first place.
And it's a multi-sport thing, right? It's not just football. It's throughout.
According to one report, it was New York Times, I think, is the one that said that, hey, this could involve multiple sports. But there weren't, other than that flight, the private jet flight, really weren't any more specifics on it. So we'll see where it goes and how it develops, because there's still plenty of questions in this. So it was that and hoops. It's been a rough 24 hours.
There was not much going on this morning.
Yeah, I don't know that it was so much this game last night with South Carolina, Tennessee. Tennessee's still a Final Four contender. That said so much to me about South Carolina than it did about Tennessee. I mean, they're for real. Yeah, they're really good. And you look at, at Ole Miss. There are so many good teams in this league. Ole Miss, a lot of people were thinking, well, they start off 13-0, 15-0. Then their first SEC game is on the road at number 5 Tennessee, and they lose 90-64 or something like that. Who wins on the road in the SEC more than out of 9 games? If you win 5 or 6 of those, you're going to be the league champion as long as you can hold serve on your home court. Vince, the thing back on that NCAA deal, again, the state laws are all different. That's the big problem with NIL is it's different everywhere you go. And just like when the Grizzlies play at Golden State or Los Angeles against the Lakers, you get taxed at 13.25% on your paycheck for that game. So they hate going out there and playing on the West Coast and the PRC, but they love playing. The Lakers love coming in the state of Tennessee because we don't have a state income tax. Ain't life grand? That's the widespread panic, one of their better songs. But I think it's big. Let's talk about Tennessee basketball. In Dudley, I'm with Dudley. Let's talk about Connect. He had 31 points last night. Dalton, kind of bring people more of his background. He's the best. Is he the best shooter in college basketball?
He might be the best player, not just shooter. Yeah. Because no, I'm sorry, he can score and does score on all 3 levels. So whether it's 3-point shooting, whether it's drive, pull up, fade away, he can post guys up at 6'6.5". He can get to the rim. He's able to maneuver through bigs and arms and bodies in the post to contort to be able to score at the rim. Even with contact, he's strong enough to oftentimes be able to score. He wasn't able to do that as much last night. The one thing with him is the last 2 games when he has struggled at the free throw line and missing key free throws. I think he missed 4 last night, I believe it was 4 the game before. Tennessee has missed 8 each of the last 2 games. So that is something that's going to have to turn back around because he's getting to the line. So he's going to have to make those. And he was at an 80% clip before last night anyway. But it's not him. He had 31 points. The other 8 players that played for Tennessee in that game scored 27. 8 players scored 27. If you take the 10 from Santiago Vescovi out, 7 others scored a grand total of 17 points. Can't win that way. Dalton Connect himself cannot do it. And I think I might have mentioned this to you guys last week. That was one of the questions about this Tennessee team is, for those that had a little bit of questions still long term, is will they get enough from everybody else besides Connect? They can't just be one guy because players are still trying to figure out how to play with him. Well, now they're starting to just defer to him and look to him. Rick Barnes is like, well, we have unselfish guys that won't be an issue. Well, they may be too unselfish because now they're just looking at him and not doing enough themselves. Josiah Jordan-James is now in an extended slump. I mean, he is too good of a player, and he still does some winning things that are not in the point in the stat book in the box score. But at times, this was a perfect game for him to be able to bust out offensively. You don't have to have him scoring 20 every game, but you can't have him at 0 every game.
Yeah.
And there's times where some guys are not going to have their offense, but you need other guys to rise up in those moments to help Dalton connect out. The big thing is they didn't get the inside play of Jonas Adu. He's been very consistent as their big. We've talked about him with you guys before. For whatever reason, he had a rough night. Tennessee missed, I think, 10 layups in the game, 10 around the rim. And that kind of set the tone, and they sort of lost their confidence after that. And South Carolina didn't give them second chance opportunities because they're a great rebounding team. And then also South Carolina, to your point, Dudley, while they're good, Tennessee knew this going in because they talked about it. They will bring you down to play their low possession game. And so that put extra pressure on Tennessee. Okay, we're missing layups. Our shots aren't falling. We're not getting the ball as much to have more opportunities. Now you start to tighten up even more. And with South Carolina playing smart and tough, that put extra pressure on Tennessee in that game, and just not enough guys. Another guy that they've been able to rely on is Zakai Ziegler. Tops in the league in assists, and he's one of the better perimeter defenders in the league and in the country. For whatever reason, he was off last night as well. So 2 reliable guys in Adu and Ziegler did not give him the consistent help for Connect, while those other guys were still trying to find their way. Just not enough from those other guys, and Rick Barnes just called the offense pathetic in that game. And when asked about Adu, somebody asked him, well, what'd you make of Adu's performance? He's like, I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I don't have an answer. So that was a little frustrating for him and concerning that they had that bottom out performance when we really hadn't seen that in a while. We've seen them be fairly consistent.
Dudley, I like you mentioned it about South Carolina. They are for real. What Vince said about players, learning to play with him and now deferring to him. You know, and that, as crazy as that sounds, you call it an embarrassment of riches or whatever, but you can become codependent on a great player. It can hurt you, can't it?
Yeah, he had 31 points on a bad night. You know, and I think it's hard to shoot free throws with the team on your back. You know, that's probably why he's missed it. I mean, he's at a point right now where he feels like he almost has to score as much as humanly possible. And, you know, he's putting up some shots that are good. He's putting out some shots that went in earlier this year, I thought, that didn't go in last night. You know, and as Vince was saying, the missed layups, it's a consistent thing when you play South Carolina. And I don't know that it's their defense. I don't know if teams are playing tight or what it is, but Arkansas missed 12 layups and dunks. I think it was 3 or 4 dunks that, you know, was in that ball game as well. They are just a good team. They let the other team beat themselves, and they don't make mistakes that cause them. And they're very efficient. I'm not a metrics guy so much, but I know that if you come down and score more points on average than the other team does on your possessions, then you're going to end up winning. And as Vince said, when you make it a so much like a college football game, and when there's just so many few possessions, if you keep the ball and have time of possession and you make your shots, you're going to end up winning. To me, that's what South Carolina's doing right now. Extremely well coached.
No, you're absolutely right, Dudley. A couple other things that South Carolina does really well from watching them in person. One of those things is they knew what Tennessee was going to do. They knew when Tennessee would drive to dish. Tennessee is really good at paint to paint passes, whether it's guard to big or big to guard or guard to guard. They got in passing lanes and deflected some of those passes from Tennessee. So they understood the body language of what the Vols were trying to do. That's one. Another thing they did is they made their free throws, and they sealed that game at the free throw line. Studi had 2 trips and made all 4 of his free throws. He was also 3 for 3 from beyond the 3-point line, and he gave Tennessee all kinds of trouble when he was at Vanderbilt as well. Their bench outscored Tennessee 22-8. So that South Carolina team, another thing they do really good is they are constantly driving downhill, and they force you to collapse, kick out to shooters that are ready to shoot. They're not stocked with first round picks or lottery picks or any of that kind of stuff. They're veteran guys. They play smart, and they clearly are in their coaches' scouts because they knew the exact approach to that game and giving themselves the best chance to win. They got Adu in foul trouble, which I thought was another big key going into that game.
And the transformation from last year to this year is just unreal. I'm just so impressed with that. That's another coaching thing, I think.
Well, y'all, I mean, we're talking about, we love to talk about the SEC, obviously, on this show, but best league, Big 12, SEC, Big East, it's pretty dominant. But then the ACC right now, you've got Duke, I think, at number 3, North Carolina at number 7. That is a great rivalry. That one's coming up. In the SEC, what's the big showdown that we got coming down the turnpike? Obviously, Tennessee, Kentucky. And nobody's beaten Kentucky more than Tennessee in basketball, like 80 times or something like that. And Kentucky has 49 or 50 SEC championships. Everybody's going after them. But looking at the league this year, do you base it on if Kentucky's good and you're beating Kentucky, it's a great league. If Kentucky's down, it's not a great year. I think what's happened is that people have gotten better across the board, top to bottom, and so Kentucky can't stand out as much. That's just how I see it. I mean, somebody answer that one. As great a talent as they have, they're not the only school that has players.
I think the drop-off from Arkansas and Missouri has hurt the league. Arkansas should have been in the top 15, or at least that's where they're expected to be. Missouri had a great year last year, and I know they lost some guys to NBA and graduation, but I think if those two teams were playing the way they did last year, then I would be more comfortable in saying it's a fantastic league. It's still a really good league, but I think there's others that are ahead of it right now because it's always a top to bottom thing for me, not just what you have at the top.
Well, it's an adjustment too. I'm sorry, Rod.
No, he's right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I just was agreeing with that. I think that's exactly it. You've got to have top to bottom.
It's an adjustment both ways. South Carolina was preseason number 14, last in the SEC in the preseason rankings, and look what they're doing. Yeah. Another team that has far exceeded expectations is Georgia. So that we haven't adjusted to Georgia. Those are teams that would be in the NCAA tournament right now, and the SEC would get 7 or 8, and I don't think that's a bad year if they get 7 or 8 in the NCAA tournament. You're right, though. Nationally, the marquee is Kentucky. You're going to be perceived better if that's your flag bearer in the league. Now, if you have two high seeds in Tennessee and Kentucky, and both of those say are in the 1, 2, or 3 line, and you get a decent amount of teams in it, I think the SEC will look just fine. But I think it's got to play out, because if some of these teams fade down the stretch and it looks just top heavy with a couple of teams, maybe Alabama or Auburn might be in there too, then the SEC's image is going to take a hit. Let me give you guys a couple quick stats on how hard it is to win on the road and what the trend is in college basketball with elite teams. The SEC Network put out the stat Saturday after Tennessee beat Vanderbilt. Going into Saturday, AP top 10 teams playing unranked opponents on the road were 18 and 27 this season. Think about that. AP top 10 teams playing unranked teams on the road, 18 and 27. AP top 5 teams in the month of January have lost 8 times to unranked teams. Top 5 teams have lost to unranked teams 8 times. Last night, Tennessee losing to South Carolina was the first time that's happened on the top 5 teams' home court. And Tennessee's on that list twice because they were ranked 5th when they lost at Mississippi State. Houston is on that list twice with 2 losses to unranked teams when they were number 2. So North Carolina lost at Georgia Tech last night too. That was the other one that happened last night. So this is kind of college basketball. Everybody's losing. And then when you think, all right, these teams are really separating, wait, they come back down, and then it kind of muddies the waters again.
Well, think about baseball. You play 162 games in the regular season. If you win 90 or more games, Dudley, and you're considered a hell of a team. The Braves won 105 or 106 last year and got smoked in the playoffs, and that has a lot to do with my Braves friends, Bravesologists like Billy Roberts, who's a big part of our show, says your bats are cold for a week. The Phillies got to keep playing because they finished way back, but they were second. That's college basketball. So you're winning 18 and 27. That's 40%. UConn, when they had that 5-game losing streak last year, who thought they would end up being the national champion? I don't think a whole lot of people did. And life on the road, people say it's the officials, it's the crowd. Well, it's whatever. And we got about 3 or 4 minutes before we're going to close out here today. We're going to end a little bit early. Brendan's got a meeting, but both of y'all, you talk about basketball knowledge. This is great stuff, and I think Dudley, the fact that Arkansas and Missouri are down this year, and Arkansas is one of the premier programs in the league. That's disturbing. Eric Musselman, again, that's a top 15 for sure. Rick Barnes, Tennessee every year is top 5, top 6 with Rick Barnes there. But and I think the takeaway, the best thing you said all day, Vince, was the guys learning to play with Dalton Connect, and now deferring to him. You can become codependent if you're not careful when you have too many great players on the team. And I know that sounds crazy, and you know what I'm talking about. That's why everybody needs to become independent and do their role and not wait on someone to make something happen. You got to make it happen yourself.
Well, Michael Jordan and LeBron James are terrific players, but when they won championships, they won them not only because of themselves, but because they had complementary pieces around.
Yeah.
And that has to be the case in every sport and on every level, not just in the NBA.
And Dalton Connect can still go off and get 25-plus point games, which he's done now 6 games in a row, which is insane. He might be the best player in college basketball, much less, in the league. But he'll still get his if other guys are able to be threats and able to score. It's just going to make it easier for him. And one last thing to further what you were talking about in the dependency, Rob. The coaching staff, Rod Clark, assistant coach for Tennessee, comes on our morning show each Monday morning, and he said, what people don't realize is the players usually come to us in the huddles and say, hey, we need to run sets and get Dalton Connect the ball more. So that shows you how much they want, and they know that this guy cannot be stopped, and oftentimes he cannot. That's another element to this. It's not like they're hoping he can be good. He really is that good.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's a player. He's a special player, and it watching him. He's going to draw people at home and on the road just because he's so good. Guys, we're going to wrap up now. Dudley, let people know how they can follow you, and appreciate you so much being on with us. And Vince, after that, you do the same, and we'll be back tomorrow after y'all do it.
No problem. Glad to do it. Hogville.net is our website. We were covering just about all 19 sports, I think, that Arkansas has. Enjoying doing that. And Fearless Friday is our high school site. As you know, that's part of my love is the high schools and covering those. So I get out and see them and write about them. And then Dead Sports is where you can find my Twitter stuff, or X, or whatever it's known as now, Icebox. I don't know. I don't. He's putting chips in people's brains now.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually me. I got the first chip.
So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
involved in. Sorry, Rob, real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, at Vince Sports on all the social media handles. It's the same, VINCE Sports. Our website has all our podcasts for our morning show, Sports Talk, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And that's at 991thesportsanimal.com. And then also I do Vol Network pregame interviews with Tennessee men's basketball players, the football as well. And then also if you go to sportsource.tv, I do a TV show on the local ABC affiliate Sunday mornings, highly rated, nice to kind of be on that round table. John Pennington, the host, does an awesome job. So I'm on there as well. And you can check out some of those segments at sportsource.tv. And baseball starts 2 weeks from Friday. Yeah, my partner, John Wilkerson, will be in Texas, where the Vols will start their season out there in a tournament at Globe Field. And so Tennessee baseball season coming up here real soon.
Look, we're going to be talking, Dudley.
Thanks, guys.
You and Vince on here together. We're going to be talking a lot of college baseball, as well as the Cardinals, and of course Vince's hometown, the Tampa Rays. I think he's a little bit of a fan. So thank y'all both so much. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to tell you what. Vince is from Tampa. Like I say, he was at home over Christmas for like 17 days because Tennessee was down there for the bowl game. Dudley, Brenden, and
You call me Dudley.
I was talking about his mom's cooking. The great Italian cooking. He calls it Mama Ferrara's restaurant. He said 17 days, and then he was in Orlando for the bowl game. But he is a Tampa Rays fan.
I feel like that they should send us some of that food. I mean, maybe I need to go down there and get some of that. That sounds
Dudley,
anything with Ferrara at the end is going to be good.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, we went over to Duval's Bluff, Arkansas, which is at the Bisco exit on I-40, people. Craig's Barbecue. Went in there and picked up 24 Craig's Barbecue sandwiches with some of the mild and the hot sauce. And some people, that sauce is too hot, but it's pulled pork loin with chopped up coleslaw on it, wrapped in wax paper with a toothpick through it. Unbelievable barbecue sandwiches with the Craig sauce on it. And I think about the documentaries that have yet to be done of us going to those. I know True South does it, but we're going to be talking the combination of duck season. There were about 30 trucks out in front of there, and I ordered an hour ahead, and I still had to wait 10 minutes. And then I saw some poor guy got there, and he goes, she goes, did you call in? And he goes, no, I was just going to do an order. And I'm like, he'll be here, as they say on SpongeBob SquarePants, 3 days later.
3 days later.
But let me say that awesome, Brenden, incredible. Thank you so much for everything you do for us and all of our guests. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and make a difference, people. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. It's no accident we've got the red, white, and blue, the American flag, our great sponsors like House Industries and the Vitamin Shop at 5338 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Get out there, support them. Go to our website. We're going to be doing a lot of things to make it better, but we are a team effort, and we're blessed to have you watching us, and got a great show tomorrow. And Jackie Sherrill will be with us Friday morning in the first segment. You talk about a guy with a crystal ball, Brenden. He's got it ready, okay?
Don't make me get my crystal ball out. I'll get the whole Karnak thing going on, and I'll, read some minds, dude.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, Karnak might be a new part of the show.
I feel like we need to have some of that. Just wanted to say thanks to Vitamin Shop. We didn't get their graphic in there. It said go down there and check them out. There you go, Vitamin Shop. Thanks.
Absolutely. And all of our sponsors, when we go to the website, you can find them. We're blessed to have every one of them again. So we'll be back with you tomorrow. And anything else we need to say, let's say it. Hey, SEC.
I just want to say I love doing the show with you, brother. That's what I want to say. And I want to say, hey, everyone out on Facebook Live that watched today, thanks. If you come on over to YouTube and check us out and get a click. But we're going to keep pushing all of our stuff out, as many channels as we can right now, to let people know where we are and what we're doing. Because this guy's pretty darn good. So that's all I got to say.
Well, we love doing it, man. And like I said, we'll be back on in the morning. Got a great lineup. Tomorrow is Thursday. So Tune in, and we'll tell you everything we know.
See ya.
All right, we're out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions.
Sideline